Hi, everyone, and welcome to our new normal, at least for a while until we see what happens with everything. I want to say a couple things before I actually get into chapter 7. One is that I am apologizing ahead of time for any of the noises in the background on any of these videos for this class. I have dogs. They will bark at times. I try to very quickly hit the pause button, but it doesn't always happen. I'm also trying to make sure I'm muting my phones but there are still going to be distractions. You might hear the dishwasher or the washing machine buzz. And so I'm really going to try to keep it as quiet as possible, but I do apologize for any distractions or any time when I have to quickly cut off and then jump back on. So I want to put that out there ahead of time. These are not going to be perfect, but I am going to get the content to you, and we're going to be fine. Also, please, 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 if you have any questions about the material, the course, the schedule, please let me know. I am going to set up a general question discussion board in Brightspace, and when you go into Brightspace, you'll see discussions along the top ribbon. Just click on discussion, and you'll see the spot where you can type a question there. You are always also very free to email me if that's easier, but I don't want you sitting out there by yourself feeling concerned or worried or stressed about anything. So just know that I am still available to you, even though we're not actually seeing each other. Next thing, I have uploaded in the course information section. So again, in Brightspace on the left-hand side, course information, the tentative revised schedule. We will be meeting via Zoom on several classes. I'm trying to limit those to times when we're going over assignments or preparing for a test, those types of things, because I think that would be a better way to spend that time. But all the regular lectures are going to be recorded this way and uploaded. I can only record 15 minutes at a time, so just keep that in mind when you see the number of recordings there. If it seems like a lot, I'd have to have 5 of them to equal one class period, and there will not be that many there. With just me talking, I tend to get through the material very efficiently. So, but it is important that you do get online, look at the videos. You can watch them through Brightspace, or you can click on the YouTube link and go there, which I think might actually work a little bit better. But you'll have the information. You already have the PowerPoints. That's what I'm using for the background for the lecture. So you're really all set to go. But again, any questions, any concerns, please contact me either through the discussion board in this class or email me, and I will be checking email regularly. I will be on my computer quite a bit, so I will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. But with that, we're going to go ahead and move into chapter 7, which is called Third Party Rights and Discharge. So the one confusing thing about this chapter is one of the first things we're going to talk about is called assignment of rights. And so just keep in mind that we're using the word assignment in this chapter differently than an assignment I hand out to you for you to complete. So your next assignment is, or not your next one, but your second next assignment is actually an assignment on assignment of rights. So the words get a little awkward to use, but just wanted to point that out. So chapter 7. So first concept that you want to be familiar with is the concept of privity of contract. So privity of contract doesn't sound like a real word, at least privity doesn't, but it is a legal concept that is very important. The parties to a contract are said to have privity of contract, meaning they are, in fact, the parties to the contract. They are the ones whose rights and obligations are set forth in the contract, and they are, under the contract, the only ones who can complete the contract or discharge the contract. So there is another term that we haven't used a lot, the idea of discharging a contract. When we use that term, it just means that the parties have completed their performance of the contract. And in Chapter 8, we will come back and use that term much more frequently. So generally speaking, if you and I enter into a contract, only you and I are able to and responsible for fulfilling our obligation under that contract. Meaning I can't take that contract and apply it to someone else other than you and force them to satisfy the contract. They don't have privity of contract with me. Only you have privity of contract with me. So that is the general rule, and that is the starting point. The rest of our discussion, though, is going to talk about exceptions to that rule. Okay, so first exception is, and this word can be pronounced differently, assignees, assignees. I'm not really sure if one is technically correct or not. I hear it both ways, and I think I say it's both ways. But the assignee is the person to whom rights are transferred. Okay, so assignee is the person to whom rights are transferred. So if I have a right to receive something under a contract, I can assign the right to receive that to someone else. So for an example, I've sold you my car for $1,000. I have the right to receive $1,000. I can assign that right to someone else, meaning that person can then collect the $1,000 from you. That's how an assignment works. And the person I'm assigning that right to is the assignee. Another exception is intended third-party beneficiaries. Think of insurance policies when you think of intended third-party beneficiaries. That is the example that I always give. I take out an insurance policy, life insurance policy. The contract is between me and the life insurance company. Okay. The beneficiary, the intended third-party beneficiary, would be my child. I am making my child the beneficiary. My child is not a party to the contract, but my child, as the beneficiary, would have the right to enforce the contract against the insurance company. So I enter into the contract with the insurance company. I pay the premiums every year. I maintain the policy. Upon my death, money is to go to my child. I die. My child, as the intended third-party beneficiary, has the right to enforce the contract against the insurance company. Okay, so even though my child doesn't have privity of contract with the insurance company, under the law, as an intended third-party beneficiary, they can enforce it. Okay, so we're going to come back to both those concepts. Okay, so let's look at assignment of rights. Okay, so when we say assignment in this context, we're talking about the transferring of rights from one party to another party. So we're transferring the rights from the original party to the contract to another party, to someone who is not part of their original contract. So again, I am entitled to receive, and I have the right to receive $1,000 from you for the sale of my car. I'm the original party to that contract. I assign the right to someone who is not a party to the contract. That is an assignment of rights. In this scenario, I am the assignor or assignor, or however you want to say it, and the other person that I'm assigning the rights to, again, is the assignee or assignee. Okay, and so if you want to look at an example, if visuals help you, look at page 159 in your textbook. You will see the three various shades of blue towards the bottom of the page. So in my scenario, I would be the assignor, okay, so I am the assignor. When you look at the chart on page 159, I would be the creditor in this situation. I would be the one who has the right to receive the money. So I am in that dark blue box on the right-hand side, top right-hand side. You owe me the money. You would be the debtor in the situation, or the obligor, the person who is obligated to pay the money. I am now assigning my rights to receive money to you to the assignee. So that is the lightest color block at the bottom of that graph. Okay. So when I assign the rights to the assignee, that person now has the right to enforce payment from you. So even though that person was not a party to the original contract and we have privity of contract, if I properly assign my rights to that person, they then can enforce collection against you. Now notice the language, which there's a lot of different terms here. And again, I hate to say it, just kind of memorization. But the terms, you need to know assignment, you need to know assignor, assignee. You also need to understand how that relates to obligor, obligee, because usually the obligee is the assignor, and usually the obligor is the person who has the obligation to pay the money to the assignee in these situations. So what contracts can be assigned? Most contracts can be assigned. There are some that are either problematic or will not be assignable. And those are listed here. So personal services contracts. So what we mean by a personal services contract is when you are hiring somebody for their personal skill. So if I hire you, who is an artist, to create something for me, you can't necessarily assign that right to someone else because I've hired you for that particular skill. Okay. Whether or not I'm hiring someone for particular skill is going to be a question of fact that the parties can certainly dispute. If I hire a landscaper to come landscape my yard and I hired them for specific reasons and they get really busy and they decide to give the work to someone else, can they do that under the contract? Maybe, maybe not. It really depends if you view that as a personal service contract and if you can make that argument that that's what they were hired for. So that is one type of contract that generally cannot be assigned. Okay. Again, the question will be, is it in fact a personal services contract? Second kind of contract that usually cannot be assigned is the assignment of future rights. Okay. This scenario would be, I don't have a right to money now, but I will in the future. I can't assign that right to you now. So say I am confident I'm getting an inheritance from my parents. I don't have the money yet. Cannot assign that right to you until I actually have the money, because there's no sure way to know whether or not I'm ever going to get that money. So if it's a future right, kind of like saying if I win the lawsuit and I get money, I will assign that to you. I can't technically assign a right until I actually have that right to assign. Okay. Third contract that cannot be assigned or can be problematic is if the assignment would materially alter the risk. So this one, think of an auto insurance policy. Our insurance rates are based on factors specific to us. So I can't just assign my right under a policy to someone else because that would materially alter the policy and the risk involved in that policy. And the last type of contract that generally cannot be assigned is legal rights. So if a legal action involves your personal rights, you can't assign that to someone else. So basically, this is just kind of law 101 generally, but this is how it means how it comes about in the contract world. If I have a personal injury case against someone, I have to be the one to bring the action. You can't bring it on my behalf. I can't assign my rights to you to pursue that action. I would have to bring that action. The only exceptions to that would be a parent can always bring an action on behalf of their minor child, and an incapacitated person can always bring an action on behalf of, a guardian of an incapacitated person can always bring an action on behalf of that incapacitated person. But the person whose rights are actually being impacted by the outcome of the lawsuit has to be the person who brings the lawsuit, and those are not assignable.